Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices, and we're continuing our celebration and taking a pause to honor our veterans all November long. And joining us today to help us wrap up the month of November are two of our student officers from our Student Veterans of America Association and their chapter advisor. I'm going to take a quick second to introduce them, but I really want them to tell you who they are because their journey is part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Joining us, someone who you all should be pretty familiar with, he's been a guest before, is Dr. Gregory Vecchi, one of our criminal justice faculty. Welcome back, Dr. Vecchi.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Joining him from our clinical mental health program and our student body president for Student Veterans of America is Gerard Dempster. Gerard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me into this space today to share with you.
And last, but certainly not least, is our vice president for our Student Veterans of America, Lida Brown. She is also faculty here at the institution, along with being one of our students. So, Professor, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for inviting me.
One of the things that we wanted to talk to you guys about and just really kind of share the story is about leadership and what our veterans bring to the table when it comes to leadership, because there's a lot when it comes to talking about leading with integrity that we can take a minute and learn from our veterans. So I want to ask about your military experience and how that has shaped your leadership and how you look at leadership. But most importantly, if you could tell us a little bit about your service. And I'm going to start with Dr. Vecchi, if you guys don't mind.
Sure. Well, I'm a little dated as far as my military service, but I served in the U.S. Army. I was there, started in 1985 to 1992. And about 6.5 years or so. And I started out as a electronic tech at the Hawk missile system, which doesn't exist anymore. It was electronic. And I had an interest in law enforcement. And my idea going into the military was to get the VA benefits so I could get my bachelor's degree and join the FBI. But I didn't have that. My parents didn't allow or didn't have the ability to pay. And there was really no such thing as a student loan thing back then. And so I went in there with the express idea to just, get some experience and get that money. But what I found out was, while I was there and in my electronic tech thing, I found another direction or another opportunity, which was to become an Army CID agent, which was kind of like the FBI for the U.S. Army. And they had a special program where you didn't have to be an MP. And I was allowed to go into that program as one of the first groups of people who weren't MPs. They just wanted a little bit more variety in terms of background. And so not only that, did I get the experience that I needed before I eventually got in the FBI, but the Army also helped me pay for my bachelor's degree. So I got my bachelor's degree and all of this great investigative experience while I was in the Army. And then I got out, and that was basically the launching point for my 26-year career in the FBI. And so the military was very important to me. And actually, I thought I was just going to go in, do my time, come back out, get my degree, try to find some experience, and I got everything. And it was one of the best experiences in my life. I know a lot of other veterans share that. And I guess the other thing that I got out of it was, the ability to deal with a diversity of people. Because in my unit, we had people from every color and creed, and it just seems from every aspect of the world, people that were not born in the United States, people from all over the United States. And it gave me a kind of a leg up because I use that in the FBI. Because in the FBI, you have to be able to talk to informants, to prosecutors, to other agents. You have to deal with conflict. You have to take the lead as a case agent, or you have to have the ability to follow other people who are put in charge. And the military set me up perfectly for that.
We appreciate you sharing that with us, Dr. Vecchi. I'm going to ask you the same thing, Gerard, if you don't mind, if you could share a little bit about your military background.
Sure. I didn't see military service as my first option. Out of high school, I went to college. I'm not proud of my performance there, but I learned a lot of valuable life lessons. And that journey led me to the military, seeking direction and purpose, trying to mature myself. And it was probably the greatest decision that I ever made. I stayed for a full 26 years. I was an infantry officer. I had 5 combat deployments, ranging from Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Somalia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I was injured in Afghanistan on 7 October 2009, but was able to finish out my career. I was able to do 7 more years until my retirement. And right now, I'm using all the things that the military has taught me about leadership and integrity. I'm capitalizing on organizations out there that help veterans with transition, and that bring them in and help them with all the complexities that are involved with getting out of uniform and regaining identity in another phase of your life.
Thank you, sir. And Lida, we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey in the military.
Hi. So I joined the military right out of high school. I spent almost 15 years active duty. I was in from 1990 to 2005. I was medically discharged in 2005. I, like Gerard, spent numerous times on deployment. While I was an airborne cook. So I was stationed at Natick Labs. I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was a PLDC instructor. So I was a lot of different things while I was in. And it taught me to grow up. I was 17 when I joined. So I was very young, and it helped me grow up and learn what I wanted to do. Out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I became a nurse.
That's amazing. All 3 of you, you've had different journeys, but it sounds like the military really helped to shape your purpose, to identify it, to get you there and get you on that journey. And thank you so much for your service and your time in the military, that what you have done for this country. When we look at your military experience, has that shaped how you look and see leadership? And any one of you can answer. I was gonna originally pick one of you guys at the same time, but I'd love for you guys just to chime in as you see fit.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, in my field, a lot of people have a tendency to come into work late. We have patients that are waiting on us. We have our colleagues that are waiting to get relieved. And it really used to irritate me, because if you were on time, you were actually late in the military. So you'd see leadership just stroll in whenever they wanted to. They'd be kind of lackadaisical, and then the unit itself would be kind of chaotic because there was no true structure. So for me, structure was always one thing that I looked at for leadership. If I'm supposed to be in a certain uniform, then I need to be in that uniform. I'm supposed to be early, not 2 minutes late. Stepping on the unit, I should have already been ready to take my position at the time I'm supposed to be there. So seeing leadership a little differently than colleagues that don't serve in the military, it really shaped how I see leadership.
It's funny because I had the exact same experience, and this is something I think that covers many types of careers. So in law enforcement, you got a guy that's on a shift, right? And he ain't gonna go home until he gets relieved. And the worst thing you can do in law enforcement is to be late for your shift, because that guy has probably already been working for at least 12 hours, maybe 14 hours after all the paperwork. And what I think the military brings is that what you just said about, showing up and that, being on time is actually late. I think part of it has to do with I think people from the military just show a little bit more selfless attitude towards the job, that mission oriented approach where you have got to do that mission and finish that mission, complete that mission, prep for that mission. And that is a great example, I think, that most people can relate to is, people that don't show up and then other people have to take up the slack. And when you're in medical field like nursing, okay, yeah, someone that gets extremely tired, they can make a mistake. And the same thing for law enforcement. It's life safety things. But I think that even if it's not a life safety or a medical or triage type thing, that applies across the board, whether you're a lawyer or accountant or a construction worker.
I wouldn't mind sharing that. For me, before I joined the Marine Corps, I knew very little about leadership, except for what I was able to glean from my high school years as a varsity sports captain. Everything I learned about leadership, I learned through the Marine Corps, and I continued to develop and refine those skills over my 26 years. And I did that through professional military education, civilian education, seeking tough assignments with increased responsibility, and just doing. And I learned that being a leader wasn't about power. It was about influence, inspiration, leading from the front and setting the example. Because in our line of work, when we have to send Marines into harm's way, knowing that accomplishing your mission may result in the loss of life, your Marines will follow you, not because they have to, because they trust you, they believe in you, and they know you would never ask them to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And for me, that's the true measure of leadership.
The Army used to have an acronym for leadership, LDRSHIP. L stood for loyalty, D was duty, R is respect, S was selfless service, H was honor, I was integrity, and P was personal courage. I used to try to make it an epitome that I followed that leadership role model. Even when I became an instructor, I try to do that. And my students know that I won't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And when I was in the military, I was a shift supervisor in the mess hall. And some of my soldiers wouldn't know how to clean an oven. So I'd be down there cleaning the oven with them. But the minute they got up and walked away, then my cleaning would stop. I'd go do something else. So I'd be down there with them, working with them. However, if they decided not to and they went to go do something else, then I wouldn't. So doing what Gerard said and showing them that you wouldn't ask them to do anything you wouldn't do yourself.
We call those our 14 leadership traits. And we use an acronym. It's called JJ, Did, Tie, Buckle. I don't know the military's acronym soup, but after 30 plus years, I'll try to remember it like Lida did. Judgment, justice, decisiveness, dependability, initiative, decisiveness, tact, integrity, enthusiasm, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, endurance.
I appreciate you both sharing those acronyms with us. And even Dr. Vecchi, I know you didn't give us any great acronyms too for us to, have to double check on, but they all have the same underlying concept, and that's integrity. Has your definition of integrity, or even what integrity means to you, changed from service to civilian life, or do you see that just like your leadership perception, it's just stayed strong with you even after leaving the military?
I think that one thing to think about on integrity, and that's, doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? And I think that in the military, you learn that. And, the other thing that I learned from the military that I bring to leadership positions and how I judge leaders is the ability to deliver bad news. You've got to be able to deliver bad news because not everyone can be happy all the time. And I think we've gotten into this, situation and kind of this culture where everybody wins, everybody gets a trophy. We're not going to keep score. or, you know, and that's just not life. And in organizations, you have to do things that you don't like, and you're not going to get things just because you apply for a promotion or you apply for a bonus or whatever it is you're looking for. A good leader has got to be able to do the right thing when no one's looking and deliver bad news effectively, and then stick just with the bottom line up front. Okay. And if you just can do that, you'll gain credibility and respect for doing that. It's when people hem and haw and they you know, they get passive aggressive, they try to avoid, that is when leadership suffers.
Yeah, I would say probably throughout the military veteran community, what Dr. Vecchi said is integrity is doing the right thing at all times, even when nobody's looking, or some version of that is we all believe in that. That's how we define integrity, I think, as veterans. And we do this regardless of how difficult the situation may be, right? Because when challenges arise, it could be tempting for us to choose the easiest or the most comfortable path. But true integrity requires staying grounded in one's morals and values. All right. So leading with integrity means allowing those values in one's character to guide every decision and act in, even when doing so demands courage or sacrifice. All right. And this is a trait that's transferable with veterans from life in service to transitioning into the civilian world. And it's the compass that guides us when no one else is watching, in uniform, out of uniform, whatever job we have.
You know, I see this example all the time. And when I try to explain, when somebody says, well, you know, what does that mean? You know, doing the right thing when no one's looking. I said, next time you go to Lowe's or you go to the mall or you go to the grocery store, okay, when someone comes out with their shopping cart, do they just leave it in the parking place, right, in front of everybody, or they actually walk the distance and put it back where it's supposed to be in there? And that to me kind of it's kind of a silly example, but I think that's a pretty good example or way to think about it, right? Is because, you know, if you don't put, you know, simple things, if you don't put your cart back, okay, then you're going to cause it to roll and hit another vehicle. Someone's going to run into it. You're going to cause more problems for the employees having to go out and try to collect them and everything like this. And I think it's just a really good, simple example of integrity. You know, just do the little things, because it's the little things that count.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to ask you guys about challenges, but before I do that, I do want to ask you a little bit about the reason why we had you guys specifically on today's episode. And that was to talk a little bit about Student Veterans of America, and the importance it plays with, you know, other institutions have it, but obviously you guys are here with us at Keiser University. And what is the importance of having a Student Veterans of America opportunity, whether we look at involvement, engagement, leadership? What is the significance behind organizations such as this for our veterans at any institution, you know, specifically Keiser?
So I think one of the things that we see a lot of times is we'll see people that come directly out of the military. They're trying to acclimate to civilian life. And sometimes, depending on their circumstances, it's very difficult to transition from military to civilian life. When I first transitioned, it was very difficult for me. Why? Because it was always, you know, this is how we do it, get it done. And, you know, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I was really abrupt and kind of rigid when I first got out. Mm-hmm. So I had to soften myself, especially going into healthcare. You know, my colleagues, I tell a tech to go get a urine sample from a patient, and I would get, well, I have to go do this and this. And I'd explain, well, I need it now. And I may forget to say thank you. Why? Because a lot of times in the military, you know, we just, here's what you need to do, take care of it. And I'd forget to say thank you, and they'd be hurt. I'd hurt their feelings because I didn't say thank you, or can you please do this? And it's not that I wasn't being appreciative of what they were doing. It was more so that's just the way it is in the military. It's just, hey, go get this done. There was no question, go get it done. So transitioning out is a little tough. Also, some of the veterans that are coming out, they don't even know what benefits they're entitled to. Some of them don't even know that they can go get an ID card, even if they have very minimal, if no disability, they're able to go get an ID card. So even starting with that kind of stuff, SVA does those outreach programs with the student veterans and trying to get them acclimated, help them with resources that they're available that they may not know about.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I've only learned about SVA probably within the last year, but have come to understand just how powerful and influential they are as advocates for student veterans and in the veteran community. And they've provided me with an opportunity to redefine myself as a leader in a different uniform in a different phase of my life. I've had the distinction, like Lida said, I was selected for their Leadership Institute, which was a phenomenal experience, immersive up in Washington, D.C. I've attended their regional summits just back in August, and I'm slated to attend their national convention out in Aurora, Colorado in January 26th. But I've come to realize no matter how long our service to this country has lasted, eventually we all leave and we begin to shape the second phase of our lives. And for those that are choosing the academic path, Student Veterans of America can provide a space to collaborate with other veterans who face the same challenges, like Lida said, of transition and self-redefinition. And for veterans, what we do for one another through this organization resembles one of the most meaningful traditions that I have witnessed and been a part of in the Marine Corps. And we've just celebrated our birthday, 250 years on Monday. And at the ceremony, it is traditional that we identify the oldest and youngest Marine in the crowd. And there's a ceremonial birthday cake. The cake is cut. The first piece of cake is given to the oldest Marine. That oldest Marine then takes a bite of that cake and he passes it to the youngest Marine. And this symbolizes the transfer of knowledge, experience, and tradition from one generation to the next. And I kind of see SVA members who've successfully navigated that transition doing the same. They're passing the cake forward to help others find their way. Therefore, I see my role as the president of our chapter as the catalyst to make those connections and bring those veterans in close to something that feels familiar.
And I also think it kind of picks up the brother and sisterhood aspect of the military, because we all gravitate toward each other. When you've served, you kind of gravitate to what you know, and another veteran is usually what you know, and you kind of have a tendency to open up a little more with other veterans. So this is also picking up that brother and sisterhood.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, Lida. That's exactly what I was going to say. I've experienced it as a professor. You know, I've had students in my class, and you know, there's a change in behavior, right? Something's going on, right? You just notice because there was a change in their not their attendance, but their interactions, their assignments, things like this. Something that's a little off. And several times I've reached out to them, and immediately the veteran connection and usually help them through. And I think that's really important, not just from student to student, but also from faculty to student and reverse. I think it works both ways.
Yeah.
One of the missions for SVA and in helping you guys get this chapter up and going, I've learned a lot myself about it, but one of the most important things is that sense of community, or that ability to be able to form a community. And a lot of our organizations, and in general, we talk about that community. That I don't like the phrase like-mindedness, because sometimes people interpret that as like closed-mindedness. But that sense of community that can bring you feeling that you have a place, you have a part to play, you have something to contribute is very important to SVA on their national level and even, you know, locally at your individual chapters. Do you think, and again, I know that we are fresh for SVA, all of us here, but do you think SVA plays a role with some of the challenges that our veteran community is facing, whether it's that transition that you guys mentioned from civilian or from soldier to civilian, or just like ongoing needing of information, IDs, education, resources? I mean, where do you guys think SVA falls into when it comes to those challenges?
But again, like I said, a lot of military people gravitate toward military people, so they feel more comfortable opening up. So when they face those challenges, the veteran may hear that another veteran is homeless before their faculty or even their friends hear about it, because they just feel more comfortable because they know that veterans not going to judge them for what they're going through. Possibly they may have gone through it themselves, or they know people that have gone through it. If they're dealing with someone that has passed away, then they're able to speak with that veteran and kind of have that bond, and they'll take a little more advice from the SVA versus others. We have an undergrad chapter here in the Jacksonville campus at SVA as well. And my husband actually used to be the advisor. So I used to go to a lot of the different things, being a veteran as well. And you'd see the students, and of course, they're usually overworking themselves, as most of us veterans do. They're in many different clubs and many different organizations, but they're able to come back together and have that brother and sisterhood help them out, and even refer other people to them because of that connection.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. I agree with everything Lida's saying, and it's when veterans find out about the Student Veterans of America Association, I think there's genuine curiosity, and they want to move towards and gravitate towards that organization. Because when we leave the military, we lose that sense of identity. It's not just the uniform, it's not the rank, it's not the title. It's where do we belong? Where do we fit in? How do we succeed in this environment? And I think when veterans enter the world of academics and the schools where we exist, and they find out about that, for them, that's familiar territory. They want to make that their tribe again. And, you know, they want to have a sense of belonging. And they want to stand behind something. And Student Veterans of America gives them that to stand behind. But it also opens doors for them and empowers veterans by creating an environment where leadership can be practiced and not just discussed. It gives veterans opportunity to take initiative, collaborate with peers, serve with campuses and communities, much like they did in uniform. Whether they're organizing events or advocating for resources or mentoring other student veterans, we're reminded that leadership is about service and responsibility, not position or rank. And our organization is a synthesis of all branches, eras of service, ranks, genders, and religion, united by a shared purpose to support one another and continue serving beyond the uniform.
And before we let you guys all go, and we appreciate your time, we've talked a lot about integrity, we've talked a lot about leadership and overcoming challenges. But is there one key lesson from your experience, whether it be from those dealing with challenges, dealing with the transition, or just your time in the military? Is there a lesson that you could share with our audience about leadership that, you know, even maybe they could apply in their day-to-day lives?
One that comes to me is people that were from jobs in the military, like infantrymen, artillery, and they'll say, well, you know, these skills, I mean, I can't use this. And I always tell them, I said, what are you talking about? You're not going to be paid to shoot a gun, but you're going to be paid to be trustworthy, to be patient, okay, to be empathetic, to be non-judgmental, to want to do the mission, to want to be selfless. All the things you do when you were pulling the trigger in the military applies immensely to the civilian world. And it's a matter of focusing on their attributes, not their skills, because anyone can learn a skill, but you can't change your attributes. And I try to bring that as the basis, or to answer your question, as to things that oftentimes people getting out of the military, they don't make that connection.
Yeah, I think just like Dr. Vecchi said, there's probably very few skills that are not transferable from any military occupational specialty in any branch that cannot be utilized in the civilian sector. But more importantly are those intangible things that we learn about leadership. And being a leader is a tremendous responsibility, and it's earned through trust and character. It's not just given. It's not about power. It's not about authority, but it's about influencing, inspiring those. It's about the privilege to lead individuals that are entrusted in your care. And as you continue, or for those of our listeners, as they continue their academic and personal journey, they should keep striving for self-improvement and to develop their own brand of leadership. As leaders, we should be adaptable. So everything that we've learned in the military, we can use outside, like Dr. Vecchi said. We just have to adapt that to the environment that we are in now. And I'll leave you with a moment from a scene out of the movie Saving Private Ryan. At the end of the film, you have the older James Ryan, who was Private Ryan in the movie, and Tom Hanks, who played Captain Miller, was out there looking for him to bring him home. He was the last male in the family, and he's standing at Captain Miller's grave, and he turns and he looks to his wife and he says, "Tell me I led a good life. Tell me I've been a good man." That scene reminds us all to pause and reflect and ask ourselves, am I leading with integrity? Am I living an honorable life? And I'll leave you with that.
And the one thing that I want to say is that don't forget where you came from. I mean, some people get out and they lose everything that they had in the military. Don't lose your self-identity. Don't lose what you learned while you were in, because many employers, many different places look for veterans to hire, look for the veteran attributes of individuals and want to employ them, want to have them in their organizations and things like that. So don't lose it. Don't lose your identity. Don't try to change.
Thank you, all three of you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this conversation. We really appreciate you all joining us, sharing your experiences, sharing your insights. I know some of these conversations aren't always the easiest to have, so we do appreciate you guys connecting with our listeners today and helping us honor veterans all November long by joining us. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us here at Keiser Voices Podcast. And get ready, we are 1 month away from our 100th episode, so we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.